Hey guys, welcome to the second ever edit walkthrough on my channel. Quick disclaimer, this isn't an in-depth tutorial on how to perfectly make an edit because number one, I'm not a master, and number two, I am kind of just going through and explaining important things that I feel you should know throughout the edit, or just that I think is interesting because, you know, whatever popped into my head when I was making this edit. And I actually had some people telling me this helped them, so that made me really happy because I wasn't expecting this to be super helpful, or my last edit walkthrough, because it was kind of crazy, and also I wasn't sure if I was explaining things right or if I was even getting the point across. But to hear somebody tell me that it actually helped them really boosted my self-esteem. So alright, now time for the edit walkthrough. I want to say this is from a show called Wanda Vision, which you probably heard of a million freaking times because it's really popular, but it's from Wanda Vision. If you haven't seen Wanda Vision, you're probably gonna be fine. This is just a character design from the show, but don't go on my Instagram. Don't go on my Instagram if you don't want spoilers, because if you swipe, there is a spoiler at the end, because it was something I loved from the show that I wanted to put in my post. So if you don't want a spoiler, I don't recommend going on my Instagram, but this is fine for you to watch. Okay, let's get into the actual edit. I'm just gonna be explaining. Alright, so I'm gonna start by putting in all of my limbs that I took screenshots of by going into the character portal, edit area, and right clicking and then saving the image as a download and then uploading it onto Photoshop. It should be on screen how I did that. And then I'm going to go through with the select tool and just select the white from the background and then clean it up with the eraser tool, which is my favorite, right next to the magic selection tool, because it's not even called the magic selection tool, and I've managed to start calling it that. Like in my other video, I called it the magic selection tool, and I don't think it's called the magic selection tool, so that just proves the effect it has had on me. It is just so magical. Anyways, that was stupid. So clearly I missed some limbs, so I just added little Wanda's lips, and then again just selecting all the white. I usually like to get the head and erase the neck under it so that I can do a shadow below, and also so that I don't have to mess with the neck and everything. There's pros and cons to leaving the neck onto the head cutout. I don't know which one's better at this point, but it's just what I do. So cleaning up is actually really important because you don't want to end up with white spots around the hand or around the arm, so that's what I usually do. That was me using the, I'll put it on screen, tool, or in the description, you know. Then I put an actual screenshot from the WandaVision scene, and I had to crop Wanda out, so that was cool. Shoot, is this a spoiler? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyways, so I put an actual screenshot and I brightened the image because it was really dark for some reason, and I decided to pause for a really long time for some reason. Oh my god. Alright. Well, as you can see, okay, I decided to start again. Now I'm just positioning the head. Sometimes I accidentally make the head too big or too small, so I think just like turning around for a second and then looking back at your screen to see if the head proportions look weird, because that's what I do. I always have to spin my chair around and then like think about something else for a second and then turn around and be like, okay, it's way too big, or it's perfect. I had to actually erase some of her hair because I wanted a middle part, but I didn't want it to go into her face that much because I was going to make it go into a ponytail to match the actual like scene of what she looked like. So I kind of had to improvise and do the jawline. It doesn't look great because I just used the brush tool to touch up the jawline, but I make it, it can be fixed later because of the shadow that I put under the head. As you can see, I'm just positioning all the limbs in the place that I want them to be. This is kind of a fun part. It's kind of, what am I saying? It's not fun. Like, I don't like this part. It's probably my second to least favorite, next to cutting them out. But it's just kind of frustrating. It depends on how I'm feeling, but my favorite is just doing the little details at the end. But then I'm gonna add a ponytail. I actually got this from the back of a hair, which always look for the back of the hairs, because I used to just take it from the, like, you know, whatever the picture the hair was from the front, I would just take from that. But there's a lot of opportunity in the back that I was not exploring until like this. So as you can see, I'm making sure to cut out the white parts, because that can screw up the image a lot. If you don't cut out the white parts, it won't screw it up, because I used to not do that, but it bothers me now when I look back at my older edits, like when I was starting like a few months ago. It bothered me so much. So I really just recommend taking out the white as soon as you can, so that you don't get used to it in your edit and then think like, oh, it's fine, because trust me, it'll haunt you forever. Alright, so sometimes there's going to be little parts of your like limbs that don't make sense with the one that you're attaching to it, so using the mixer brush tool is really helpful when you want to go through, touch up, make it look like how you want it to look. But yeah, for the legs I actually struggled because I didn't know how to position them, and for some reason like layering was confusing me. Not like the technicality of it, but like which layer to put them on to make it make sense, because as you can see, I'm struggling. But for legs, I'm used to making sitting down positions or just straight up standing up, so I just recommend don't make them too skinny. That's an error I always do, or used to and see in other people's stuff, is that legs end up being too skinny, and that's what I ended up doing, which bothered me, and I couldn't pinpoint it until like when I was done. So, you know, I zoomed in so you couldn't really see the legs, but honestly, just try not to make your limbs too skinny compared to the rest of the body, because it's actually pretty noticeable, especially with me. So just making sure of that. As you can see, I just used a PNG website. Yeah, and literally I looked up Red Powers PNG, and like a bunch of Wanda inspired PNGs popped up, and I literally got it straight from it trying to be Wanda, so that's really convenient. Alright, this is a new thing that I haven't done yet on this channel. I'm changing the color. I'll put the tool on the screen that I'm using, but I'm going to be changing the color of her jacket. I'm actually not doing it yet because it took me, oh, I guess I am. But I'm changing the color of her jacket by using the selection tool or using the little cutout tool thing to separate the jacket from the rest, so I don't end up coloring the body instead of just the jacket. So I just selected the clothes and then darkened them so that I could make them a dark red. As you can see, this actually took a long time for me to figure out. And then I use the color replacement tool to go through and give it a red tint so that it is now a dark red jacket, when before it was a light gray, which I wish I would have just used a darker jacket when I started this, but you know, it's whatever. Alright, now I'm actually imitating her actual outfit in the photo, just putting little lines, and as you can see right now, it looks like straight up I drew it, but I'm gonna lower the opacity like I just did and then blur it a little bit so it like blends into the picture a little better. But it actually ended up looking pretty good. Alright, there's purple in her eye now, and what I did with this was I just drew on part of her eye to make it appear that there's something purple that she's looking at that is, you know, reflecting onto her eye. And it just adds a little bit more depth to it. As you can see, I am now adding some purple onto her. That's not what I end up doing like in the end, because it looks like I drew some purple and then it's affecting the rest of the image. Like, it doesn't look like a light. Oh my god, I couldn't figure out that eyebrow. I just kept getting purple on it. I remember that. That bothered me. So now she looks a little more sympathetic, like she's worried instead of like doesn't care at all. Alright, now I'm selecting the darkest color on her hair and just going through and adding little strands. I'm trying to make her hair look like it's blowing in the left direction, so I end up just doing that. And yeah, just add little details. It takes me a while to decide what looks right and what doesn't look right, because I'm terrible at what makes logical sense in pictures, so feel free to insult me. Well, don't, please. But yeah, so I just do whatever works. And I'm pretty sure I end up not using this many hair strands because sometimes I can get carried away and it just ends up looking like too much. I end up trying to make it look a little more like blending in with the hairs coming out, but I end up getting rid of this, so don't worry about it. Like, there's a lot of trial and error with edits, and you kind of just gotta see what works and what doesn't work, and honestly, some things don't work and it gets frustrating, but you just kind of gotta work with it and experiment, because if you just play it safe the whole time, I don't know. I play it safe all the time. I don't know what I'm talking about. So this is the part that I love. I'm doing her little makeup, sort of makeup. I'm just erasing part of her eyebrow so that it looks faded, and then I go through with a light small brush and just add little hairs or details popping up like it's her real eyebrows. I didn't do much with these, I just kept them simple. I went through with the I'll put the brush on screen that I used, but I just added more detail to her eyelashes to make it look like they were modified, basically. So I didn't do much with her eyeshadow or anything and all that. And then I take the lightest color on her face and use it for highlight on her nose with a light brush. That's also one of my favorite parts, if I can get it right. And then in between her eyes and then above her mouth. I just feel like those are the areas that look best when highlighted. And oh yeah, I make sure the blush isn't over the highlight so that it's not covering it, because highlight is sometimes hard to make show up if you try to cover it with something else. So I make sure the highlight is seen. And then I put a little shadow underneath her head, like on the lower layer. I would do this before you combine all the layers, or I usually merge all my layers by using merge visible. I am now adding a purple light. Okay, I went to lighting effects, so I pressed filter, render, then lighting effects, and then I'm gonna go through and try to put a purple light reflecting onto her right now. So I use like a really bright purple light, so it like appears there's something shining on her purple that's in front of her. This is actually really fun to experiment with, but can be really frustrating if it doesn't work out. But in this case, I think it worked out, in my opinion. It looks good. But I did it twice, like 2 layers of it, so that it's more like, you know, this is a bright light. And then I go through with little hair details that I actually kind of overlooked in this one. Like, I kept them simple. I try to give her darker roots, just because I do that with mine, and just use small brushes. Okay, so I'm adding more powers to her hand to make it more visible, because before it was just kind of there, but not really there. And I also did drop shadow, and I tried to keep the shadow deep behind her, or like a big shadow, because the background is dark, so you want to make sure that the main person stands out. But yeah, that's pretty much oh, I forgot I did that. That's like the basic process, and now I'm adding little extras. So there's like purple powers in front of her. I'm not gonna explain what that's from. I'm trying not to spoil, but you know. I like to blur the background a little bit, and yeah, I'm just gonna keep like a vague sense that there's something purple in front of her, but I don't want to make it like a full-on bulb that distracts from the actual character, so I'm just doing a little bit of that. And then I saved the image with no other filters, no green filters, and then I did use a green filter because that's just what I do. So yeah, I did the green filter, but then I went through with lighting effects and made it darker because the green filter likes to make it brighter. And then I think, oh yeah, I messed with the vibrance a little bit because for some reason, like, oh yeah, sorry, color balance. I did with yellow and pink tones above it just to make it look and match the theme of the show. And in true me fashion, but actually not true me fashion, I didn't use a Taylor Swift lyric this time. I used a quote from the show that I really love, actually. It's probably one of my favorite quotes ever, and most of my favorite quotes come from Vision. And I mean, what do you mean? It's not from Vision, no spoilers. But yeah, I really did love that. So I put it on this, and that's pretty much it. That's the whole edit. That's just the way I do it. So here it is on screen. Honestly, I really like this one personally. This is one of the ones that I like to look back on, and just I like it a lot. So yeah, it just depends on what your style is, and I hope this kind of helped you. And I'm so sorry if I accidentally destroyed Wanda Vision for you, but yeah, that is this full edit walkthrough. I hope y'all enjoyed. I hope this helped a little. And yeah, go check out my Instagram, but don't swipe on this post if you don't want any spoilers. But also go check out for free episode coding tips and writing tips and edits that are more recent, and then just updates on my stories. Speaking of my stories, go check out all 3 of my stories that are out right now. Talentless, which just got a new cover and I'm really happy about, and is going to be uploaded and updated every other week or every week. So I'm going to be grinding, guys. So if you want to go check out, oh my god, why do I sound like that? If you want to go check out Talentless, the link is in my description. If you want to check out the Spotlight, which isn't currently being updated, but there are 9 episodes out, so if you want to check that out, go look in my description. And my last story that has been out for a long time and is kind of an oldie, called The White Lie. Go check that out if you want to. And go check out my Patreon if you want to support me financially and you want to get script template requests and everything on screen. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you to everyone who's been supportive, and I'm so glad that these videos have been able to help a few people. Alright, that's all, so bye guys.